So let me tell you one of the things that really grinds my gears. Is that in places like Tumblr and all the feminist websites talk about white privilege. This idea that whites are somehow inherently better than others. I'm going to discuss a world without this white privilege. Imagine a world where women are not recognized as equals to men, where homosexuals are executed, where the sick and vulnerable are left to rot. A place where humanity does not exist and is not a concept. A world where a man born without religion is killed. A world where people do not help one another. And the idea of charity is seldom there. Imagine a world where women cannot compete in the simplest of tasks, driving, working, voting. And where the love of one another is limited to your God. So what people forget is their very idea of humanity comes from white privilege. The United Nations and the Convention of Human Rights were born out of the bloodshed of Europe. We died and fought for freedom. And we gave the gift to the world the concept that men were born equal and could be equal, regardless of their race and their skin colour and their God. But when you look to other parts of the world, not white people, and imagine what that must be like to be completely forced into a religion, to have to hide your sexuality, to have to be escorted around by a male. See, enemy of freedom is not white people, it's not Europe and it's not America, it's not Australia, it's not Canada. It's places in the world that haven't evolved to our ideologies. And there are some fantastic parts in the world. Tunisia, parts of South America, Japan, many parts in Asia. These people have adopted our way of doing things, human rights, and conventional thinking. And it's not that races are any different from one another. If you take a child, regardless of skin colour, and you teach him the same thing as somebody around him, he'll adopt that principle until something stronger comes along. And this is the problem. It's not white privilege. The benefits that Europe had were geographical, that allowed them to have vast empires. But these empires were not limited to Europe. Across the great spans of the globe, cultures ageless compared to Europeans were mounting wars and conquering lands, creating mass graves before we even learned how to make bricks. But people are too content to forget that part of history. They're too content to create a boogeyman. See, the problem in the world right now, it's not white privilege, nor is it really religion. It's the way people apply these things to society. Europe was the first continent to recognise homosexuals as equals. Some of the first countries in the world to give women proper voting rights. And yet we're demonised. We're considered monsters. The boogeymen of the planet. Not by the Asians. Not by the South Americans. Hardly by the Africans. But by our own populace, who have somehow gotten into this notion that their skin colour is any more important than the choices they make in life. See, that's all we are, in reality, is the sum of the decisions we make while living. And the problem is, some places allow terrible choices. And that's what frightens me about when people talk about white privilege. They forget the sins that happen right across the world. Sins far more dangerous and destructive than our empires could ever have imagined. Europe developed the idea of peace because we had shed blood for generations. Wars were non-stop, both on our own continents and other continents. And when somebody says that white privilege is actually a thing, the only privilege is being born in these geographical locations. See, if you take somebody who's white and somebody who's black and you teach them the exact same thing in the same environment, without any idea of racial segregation or the fact there's privilege for one group and privilege for the other, then they'll develop the same. There's no distinctive differences biologically between the races, with exception to melatonin and a few things like the ability to digest lactose. These are artificial constructs, not upheld by the majority of white people, but the minority, the extreme left, who look to create this divide for their own anarchistic gain, or the people who use their skin colour as an excuse. Nothing more. So I say to you, the next time somebody brings up white privilege, remind them that the most dangerous group on the Human Rights Council, it's not the Europeans, it's not the Americans, it's the people who still toss gays off of roofs and use whips to punish people. I'm PlebPolitics. Bye.